I was overbooked with a lot of things. I was in so many clubs, I was taking really hard classes because that's what I thought you were supposed to do.
Sometimes I felt like I was having a panic attack, like I was going into shock because it was just so much I couldn't even wrap my brain around.
I tried so hard to become popular. You want to be accepted, and that puts a lot of stress on you.
Running helps me relieve stress a lot. I just feel a lot calmer, and I don't feel like everything's crashing down on me.
Having some stress in gymnastics actually does help me. It gives you the energy level to actually perform well.
Too little stress, bored, tired, and restless. Too much stress, burnt out and exhausted. We want to find how do we get optimal stimulation or stress in our lives that works for us.
Probably all teens experience stress at some point in their lives, and many report feeling it on a daily basis. But what is stress?
A simple definition is that stress is the effects on our bodies and minds of having to deal with different kinds of demands. These demands, or stressors, can arise from situations, from other people, and from our own feelings.
Is stress bad? Yes and no. It depends on a lot of things. How much stress there is, what causes it, how well equipped we are to handle it, and on different perceptions about things that might cause stress.
Stress can be useful, even life-saving. In fact, we're innately hardwired for stress in order to protect ourselves.
Imagine a prehistoric ancestor encountering a saber-toothed tiger. His brain sends out signals to the adrenal glands on top of the kidneys to secrete adrenaline, cortisol, and other hormones into the bloodstream.
These cause blood pressure to increase and the heart to beat faster, sending oxygen more quickly to the muscles in his legs and arms. At the same time, blood is shunted away from the digestive system because his digestive organs are not needed to help him respond to the immediate threat.
All these responses put his body on heightened alert to help him either fight or flee. Of course, we don't have saber-toothed tigers running around anymore, but we still face threats that can cause the same physiological responses. Suppose a dog jumps out and barks at you aggressively, or a car runs a red light and you have to react immediately. The fight or flight response wires us to respond to such threats quickly and efficiently.
Most of the time, though, we're not faced with life and death threats, but with things like worrying about a math test, navigating the social scene, or dealing with family problems. The same fight or flight response revs up to meet these kinds of demands too.
The fight or flight response also kicks in when we encounter situations that we perceive not so much as threats, but as challenges. The fight or flight response in the right doses can help us meet these challenges.
When is stress good and useful, and when can it bring us down and be unhealthy? That's what this program is about, helping each of us determine when stress is good or bad, healthy or unhealthy, and giving us some ideas about how to deal with unhealthy stress. If we didn't have some stress in our lives, we'd most likely be bored, listless, or even depressed. Listen to Dr. Peter Montminy, a psychologist and author who specializes in teen stress.
There is a degree of stimulation or stress that we not only want for optimal performance, but we can find enjoyable, such as getting that adrenaline rush when there's some exciting bungee jumping experience. Some people love that. Or even going to see horror films and you go to be stimulated and excited about it. So we actually are, to some degree, thrill-seeking, or you could think of it as stress-seeking at times.
Some people are wired to be more open to stimulation. Others need a lower level of stimulation.
So you want to be aware of and paying attention to how much stimulation gets me in my optimal zone. How much is too little and I'm bored or restless? How much is too much and I'm exhausted or burnt out? And that varies from person to person.
My name is Joe. I'm a competitive gymnast. I think it's very important to have different types of challenges. That's why I picked the sport of gymnastics, because I'm constantly changing and perfecting my skills. Having some stress in gymnastics actually does help me. Every time before you do something new or you do a routine, my body kind of tingles up. I feel the adrenaline running through my body. You hear your heart beating faster than normal. You could hear yourself breathing. It gives you the energy level to actually perform well. Well, there is an optimum amount of stress you need to have. If you're too stressed out, you're gonna overthink and you're gonna mess up your ability in gymnastics. But if you're not focused enough, that could lead to a serious injury and you're gonna be out for a while. If you hit it just right, You get into that state where you're in the middle of your routine or new skill and you're like, wow, I'm doing this right. And when I do something good and I know it's perfect and I know I hit my set, it's one of the best feelings.
As difficult as stress may sometimes seem, we don't want to eliminate stress completely from our lives. A certain amount of stress can help us perform better, whether it's for a sport, a theater performance, a test, or to speak in class.
We call that the challenge stress, where we're excited about rising to the challenge and can then really be turned on to be in the flow of meeting that demand.
Most of us want stimulation and excitement in our lives, but too much stress is not good either.
When we start getting too much stress in our lives where it's either too intense or too frequently coming at us, that leads to starting to lower performance, lower, our health and happiness, and it leads to burnout.
In our fast-paced world, there are all sorts of demands that can lead to burnouts and meltdowns.
No age is immune from stress, but adolescence has its own specific challenges.
You have teachers telling you have to get into this college, and if you need this GPA to get here, and if you don't do this many extracurricular activities, oh, did you volunteer because you need that too? And it just comes at you from all sides. I felt pressures from my parents because I didn't want to let them down. I didn't want to let anybody in my family down or make them think that I wasn't trying enough and I didn't do enough to succeed.
For a long time, my parents didn't get along that well. They didn't talk that much. Family life should be a solid thing, and I don't think it should be a source of stress for kids, so it was definitely hard for me to deal with.
Parents, of course, can feel stress too. Financial problems, job woes, divorce, drug and alcohol problems, the list goes on and on. This brings more stress and more conflict into many homes.
We have financial problems. My parents get stressed out because of the financial problems. I get stressed out because my parents get stressed out.
My mom is so independent. She's the glue that really holds my family together, and when she was sick, it was just unbelievable. To have your mother be sick is just, nobody wants to see that.
I tried so hard to become popular. You want to be accepted, and that puts a lot of stress on you.
There are still times where I feel like I'm not included, so that has been a source of stress in my life because I've never really had a solid friend group.
In addition to the stress from wanting to fit in our relationships with friends, there's the stress that comes from intimate and romantic relationships.
How to have mutual respect for one another, how to be safe and secure in that relationship, both emotionally and physically, has always been a part of what adolescence is about, is exploring that and figuring that out.
My first experience with a girl was very confusing because it was just like, because I knew I liked her and I was like, I gotta talk to her, I gotta lay the moves on her, but I did not know how to.
Sexual pressures are tremendous on kids today. How far to go, how to be together, how to even support your boyfriend or girlfriend emotionally. There's a lot of contagion effect. So when you're being very close to someone, how do you manage taking care of yourself while still caring for and taking care of them without taking on too much responsibility? And we can get into some really kind of negative relationship or teen drama around someone being really upset and you feeling responsible for it.
It was like I was battling between myself, and it's just like one person is going to lose.
To really figure out who they are is one of the main jobs of a teenager, and feeling good enough as to who I am is a major stressor for kids.
I think fear of failure is really the heart of my problem.
The things that cause me the most stress would be thinking I'm not good enough. For you to be considered a good MC, a good rapper, you have to be lyrically good. And the way you do that is by people hearing your words, people hearing what you guys say, and if what you don't have to say is good enough, then I'm afraid of that.
School pressure, social pressure, family pressure, pressure from ourselves to be good enough, any one of these things can cause significant stress.
When different kinds of stressors hit us at the same time, things can get even tougher.
All of a sudden we have a bunch of homework, you have to have a social life, and your parents are yelling at you to get into a good college, and all of it started to get really stressful for me.
One of the biggest challenges teens today are facing is the constant bombardment of information, pressures, and demands, and the pace of modern living. So that high frequency of stressors, even if they're small stressors, adds up cumulatively.
I was overbooked with a lot of things, but I didn't know my breaking point until I got to my breaking point. When I have a migraine, I feel sick to my stomach. I feel like my head is just literally about to explode. I can't do anything. I'm literally just stuck. I'm stuck.
Remember the fight or flight response and how it saved our prehistoric ancestor? Well, if stress becomes too frequent and unrelenting, the same fight or flight response can lead to toxic levels of stress hormones, building up in our bodies with a bunch of bad effects.
The body's wired to rev up with tense, contracted muscles. We maintain that too long and we're going to have headaches, neck aches, back aches.
You can feel yourself carrying the stress in your muscles.
I have a jaw spasm on my jaw, and I had to check it out the doctor, and he told me it's from stress.
Remember that the digestive system is shut down, so it's not working properly. We're not secreting the right chemicals to digest our food when we're in chronic stress mode. So we're going to have more stomach troubles, more plumbing problems, if you will. That's also a common breakdown in the body.
I don't get any sleep because I'm constantly doing something.
Sleep breakdowns is the other big physical symptom that we see, difficulty sleeping, which of course then compounds that vicious cycle of causing more stress because we're less ready to face the demands of tomorrow if we didn't get that fully replenishing, recharging sleep.
Stress can also make us more susceptible to getting sick, catching colds, getting the flu, coming down with infections.
In addition to all the different kinds of physical strains, stress can lead to mental strains. Stress can make us distracted, disorganized, anxious, angry, and depressed.
It was hard for me to focus on what I was doing in the moment, which also I think added to the problem, because if I wasn't focusing in my classes and I wasn't doing what I had to do in the moment, it all built up and made everything just harder to get done.
Sometimes I felt like I was having a panic attack, like I was going into shock. It was just so much I couldn't even wrap my brain around it, like I couldn't even handle it.
For me, I feel like I want to punch a wall, or I just want to yell or scream.
Being stressed out, it really brings you down because you start automatically thinking, no, I can't do that, no, I can't. It makes me feel very depressed.
We have cognitive distortions and irrational beliefs where we start worrying that, oh my gosh, if I fail this test tomorrow, my life is over, I'll never get into this college and I'm going to be a bum. Or, oh, if my friend took offense to that, I'm going to be an outcast socially forever. And we start exaggerating or distorting these things. And it can sound funny or ridiculous when we talk about it like this, but many teens know that stuff starts playing in their minds bit by bit, and then that wears them down and can lead them to make more unhealthy choices if they're worrying about things disproportionately.
The stress, when it hits you, it's just like it really hits you. I would just cry.
Stress also can damage our relationships, leading us to fight by blaming or attacking others, or to flee by pulling back from our relationships and isolating ourselves.
I'll go off in my room and I'll sulk, or I'll just make sure nobody comes in contact with me.
I definitely get irritable. Sometimes I take my anger out on other people.
We pull back or fight more in our families, or we pull back and fight more with our friends, and either way we're decreasing our social supports that, guess what, adds to more stress.
We don't have to accept the bad stress in our lives. There are 4 simple steps that everyone can take to relieve stress.
We can recharge our bodies, refocus our thoughts, relax our emotions, and reconnect our relationships.
First, recharge. Recharge your body by getting the sleep that you need. And if it feels like easier said than done, or that's a cliche, I'm tired of hearing about it, understand that the sleep studies are showing that if you are not getting 8 hours of sleep a night, your brain is distracted, it's depleted, your immune system is depleted, and you're just being your own worst enemy. Recharging, of course, includes eating healthy and drinking water. Water throughout the day and hydration is a simple, practical thing you can do to really nourish your brain and your mind as well as your body. Think activity, physical activity. Get out and play, walk, do anything, and physical activity outdoors especially is the best thing you can do.
Sometimes I just put everything down and I decide to go for a run. It takes me away from everything going on. While I'm running, I'm usually thinking of positive things. I try not to let anything negative into my head that would put me in a bad mood. I think that being in shape in general makes me feel better about myself. I feel like I feel confident, and when I feel good about myself, I don't think stress bothers me as much.
When I'm inside, I feel so cooped up. There's a park by my development. It has wide open space where you can walk. Just everything is so calm, nothing's too hectic. Birds are chirping, the sun is out, everything's in tune with you.
I love archery. The whole process of stringing the bow, of pulling it back, feeling the tension in your arm, and then releasing it. And when it hits the target, it's so satisfying. And then you get to do it again.
The more you can focus on what you can do about a situation or how you can feel like there's a piece of this you can handle, the lower you're going to feel the stress, the more powerful you're going to feel.
Running away from problems does not make them go away. So if you turn them into something good, then it will work for you. And that's kind of what I do with music.
If you think, okay, that test is really bumming me out, or my parents are really kind of stressing me about this, and here's something I can do about it, and you refocus on that, you're going to feel less stressed by the exact same situation.
Reconnecting with supportive, positive people is a great way to relieve stress.
Part of being stressed is feeling alone, and that kind of can feel very depressing. Always try to have someone you can talk to.
Well, I have a couple friends that if I'm feeling stressed or upset, I call. I just tell them how I'm feeling about everything, and just makes me feel better.
The key is, are your friends positive and laughing and happy, or are you all hanging out complaining and stressing together? So be aware, be conscious about your choices of who you're hanging out with, and are you hanging out with fun people, with positive influences? And if your connections with family or friends aren't enough to help you cope with the stressors you're facing, then by all means, get some professional help. A therapist, a counselor, a minister, a rabbi, a life coach, someone who's trained in dealing with the stressors of life, and especially helping teens. You want to be able to get the help you need wherever it may be.
You're kind of proving to yourself that you do know how to deal with stress because you're taking the initiative to talk to someone, to get your feelings out on the table and not keep it bottled up inside. I mean, I feel better about myself because I feel like I'm more aware of myself because of the therapy, because I'm more conscious of the things that I do and the person that I am.
It's a sign of strength to use whatever resources you have in your environment to get stronger and healthier. The first appointment that kids come into my office, I tell them what I do. I'm a clinical psychologist. Do you know what I do? I help kids find ways to be happier and get along better.
When I do a breathing exercise or a relaxation exercise, it's really just a breath of fresh air. You breathe in for 5 seconds and you hold it and you breathe out for 5 seconds. It clears out my thoughts and it helps me with my headaches. It's the best thing.
When you can do that, breathe in, breathe out, slowly, consciously, focusing on the breath. It slows down the mind and body, which is the opposite of the stress response. There's no single more powerful thing you can do than to just breathe.
One of the best ways to relax and relieve stress is to get engaged at whatever's a joyful activity for you.
What I love about horseback riding is the horses. You have to focus on them and they bring out what's best in you. And just forget about schoolwork, college pressures, the social pressures. I really loved being around the animals.
even down to the smell. I think that all animals are very loving and they reflect back on whatever you give them.
So when I'm really stressed, I love to listen to music. It's when you're feeling down and you're feeling lonely, you put on a song and it takes you back to that place where you were feeling wonderful. It feels like everything's gonna be okay.
Recharge, refocus, reconnect, relax. All excellent ways of dealing with stress.
There's another. It's called mindfulness.
Mindfulness is simply paying attention to what is happening in the present moment without judgment. Too much of the stress nowadays and worries is we're worrying about, did I do that right? Did I perform well enough? You're worried about the past, or you're worried about the future. Am I going to do well enough on this test? Am I going to get into this college? Are my parents going to be mad at me when I get home today? And when our mind is racing with all these worries about the future or the past, we're not being present in the present moment.
I'm writing rhymes like I'm Dr. Seuss. My doctor says cause he must be bugging.
Stress drains away from me when I perform because music is something very passionate for me. It's something that I love. That's a good thing. Trying to have better, good now moments than lots of now stress moments. So trying to bring up the good and shut down the bad. And I think that's the key to relieving your stress. Finding your happy moments.
We can relieve stress by finding and doing whatever is joyful for us.
We still may have that exam tomorrow. We still may have problems with friends or peers or parents, but we've recharged, refocused, and re-energized by doing something that makes us happy for part of our day.
We're not going to eliminate stress. It's how do we live healthy and happy with stress. And we want to find how do we get optimal stimulation or stress in our lives that works for us. When we're aware of what stresses us and we can accept that, then we can align our actions to respond to it in a healthy, happy way. So it's a matter of managing and living with the stress all around us, not trying to beat it, not trying to be perfect, accepting that we are perfectly imperfect and life is still good.
The beat's over, yeah. Alright, that was fun.